Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that stack of sources you send our way, we tear through all the reports and analytics, and we pull out the insights you need. Today, we are strapping ourselves into the hot seat with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We're diving straight into a season that's been, well, defined by some serious defensive frustration. And we're going to examine the growing pressure, the trade rumors, all surrounding one very specific, very high-profile player.
Quick reminder for Leafs Nation, if you're a die-hard Toronto fan and you're still bleeding blue and white, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. It's the best way to stay updated every single day on our journey.
And that player, of course, is veteran defenseman Morgan Rielly. Our mission today is really to look past all the noise. We need to analyze the reports, these really startling statistics, and, the fan and media sentiment that's just swirling around him right now.
Yeah, it feels like it's at a boiling point.
It is. We have to distinguish between his significant historical contributions, which are valuable, and the harsh objective performance metrics that are, well, they're raising every possible alarm. And ultimately, we're trying to figure out what this all means for the team's trade deadline strategy.
And those alarms aren't just ringing, they are screaming. Our sources are pointing to a defensive crisis in Toronto. I mean, a crisis so serious that the team is currently facing these concerning odds of minus 340 to miss the playoffs.
Wow.
And to give you some context on that, when you have a roster packed with this much offensive star power, seeing that kind of betting line, it just suggests a huge structural problem. That number is the market basically declaring that change is, and this is a quote, inevitable.
It really is a declaration of systemic failure. And while, the defense as a whole has struggled, the entire discussion has just crystallized around Rielly. He's become the absolute lightning rod for all of that failure.
Okay, so let's unpack this and maybe start with the immediate event, the one that didn't just, catalyze the speculation, but really seemed to just break the dam of frustration for the entire fan base.
Right. We have to start with that specific game where he posted just a dreadful -4 rating. In a league this tight, a star defenseman being on the ice for 4 goals against in one game. It isn't just a tough night for so many fans and for key media members. It was the moment they just said, we've had enough.
It was the final straw.
Exactly. It was the culmination of weeks of inconsistency just delivered in one very painful, very undeniable package.
And what's interesting here is that the criticism coming out of that game,
Yeah.
it isn't just some, vague frustration about effort or something. It gets really specific, and it's pretty damning because it focuses directly on the mental side of his game, his decision-making.
Absolutely. The core criticism you see cited again and again in these reports, it targets Rielly's hockey IQ. It's suggesting that, regardless of his physical shape or his minutes, he is simply making poor decisions at these critical defensive moments. And that, that's worse than a physical lapse, a physical error you can correct with training or rest. A mental lapse in a veteran player that suggests a really deep-seated issue.
So what's the concrete example? The sources must have highlighted one play in particular.
They did. It was a 2-on-1 rush, a situation that, it demands immediate, precise defensive calculation. Rielly was defending against an opposing player named Nick. And the sources all say that Nick played it perfectly, made the smart pass, while Rielly, quote, messed it up. He gambled on the pass or the shot, and he gambled wrong. The result was a goal.
So the critique isn't that he was too slow, it's that he was strategically wrong.
And when the errors are strategic, the frustration, it just escalates so much faster because it feels, fundamental.
Right.
And the media reaction to this has been visceral. We're seeing reporters just go off the rails. We have this reference to Hazen Noodles from the Overdrive Sports Show, who called that game against the Islanders the worst game I've ever seen him play.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he went on to say that Rielly single-handedly cost them the game. I mean, that's commentary that's been completely stripped of objectivity. And when you hear those kinds of, emotional reactions from seasoned reporters, it tells you that the eye test is just overwhelmingly negative. The media is just articulating the fans' exhaustion.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. We need to look at the numbers behind the anger. Because the eye test, it can be swayed by emotion, but the numbers, they usually keep everyone honest. But in this case, the sources are saying the data is, if anything, way more concerning than the fan sentiment.
The data reveals a truly undeniable defensive hole. Let's just start with the most straightforward metric, plus minus. Riley's is currently a minus 15. Now you have to contrast that with his teammate on the blue line, Jake McCabe, who is a stunning plus 26.
Wait, hold on. A 41-goal swing.
Yeah.
Between two defensemen on the same team playing similar minutes. That's not a tough patch. That suggests a catastrophic failure centered on one player.
It's a huge difference, and that gap really exposes a core issue. The source material calls it a glaring hole. It's a really easy, if imperfect, way to confirm what everyone is seeing. When the other team scores, Riley seems to usually be on the ice.
But the sources go deeper, right? They bring up an advanced metric that really defines the scope of this crisis, especially at 5-on-5, which is, the core of the game.
This specific stat is the ultimate indictment. Heading into the last few games, Morgan Riley had been on the ice for more goals against per minute than anyone else among the, over 400 NHL players who have played over 400 minutes at 5-on-5 this year.
Okay, let's just pause on that for a second. So 400 minutes of 5-on-5, that's the threshold for being a regular, impactful defenseman in the league. To be dead last in that category, it means that on a per-shift basis, over the whole season so far, Riley is statistically the most porous defender in the entire NHL.
Correct. And the 5-on-5 context is so crucial because it removes all the situational stuff. This isn't about the penalty kill or empty nets late in the game. This is the main part of hockey. And he's just been unable to handle those basic defensive zone assignments.
And if we connect this to the team's bigger picture, it perfectly explains their inability to capitalize on their strengths. Because the advanced analytics actually show that the Leafs are the best team in the NHL in finishing. They're the most efficient at scoring goals.
And that's the tragedy of their season. They can generate offense better than anyone. I mean, theoretically, if they just had average defense, they'd be a clear-cut favorite. But instead, the constant issue is their inability to, quote, keep the puck out of the net. Whoa. Riley's league-worst defensive numbers are a massive reason why their offensive talent is just being negated night after night.
And there's one last kicker here. I have to play devil's advocate. Plus minus has always been a criticized stat. People say it's incomplete. Does that give them any cover?
Not at all, according to the sources. In fact, the reports remind us that frightening minus 15 number, it does not account for special teams. Which means if you factor in the goals scored against them while he's on the ice during the penalty kill, his real defensive impact is arguably even worse than that. We are just looking at a completely unsustainable defensive situation no matter which metric you use.
It is unsustainable.
Yeah.
But, to maintain perspective, we can't let this current performance just erase a decade of contribution. We have to talk about the weight of his legacy here.
Exactly. I mean, Morgan Riley isn't just a veteran. He is the longest-tenured Maple Leaf on this roster. And think about what that means for a team that, historically has a track record of letting guys go after 2 or 3 seasons once the fans get tired of him. The fact that Riley, by the sources' count, would become the longest-tenured Leaf of all time if he played just 3 more seasons?
Yeah.
That's remarkable.
He's been an absolute fixture.
He has. He's put his body on the line, he's signed long-term deals, and he's acknowledged as being one of the best playoff performers through the years. I mean, they specifically highlighted his work in 2023, so there's immense historical value there.
Right, but history doesn't stop the puck. This crisis puts Coach Craig Berube in a really tough spot. After that -4 game, he had to go out and